Santa Clarita, welcome in. Good morning, happy Friday. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. I am Matt Watson, and this is SCVI, and I lead Schools Eye on the Valley. Our show, Eye on the Valley, is brought to you, like I said, by SCVI, and I lead Schools. We are a network of charter schools with campuses in Castaic, Agua Dulce, Lancaster. We've got a fully accredited online school that is TK through 12th grade. Yes, don't believe me, check it out. We've also got a burgeoning homeschool program called iLead Exploration. You can visit us at ileadschools.org for more information on our virtual schools, our classroom-based schools, our hybrid schools. We've got any kind of school that your kids need. So yeah, we keep our eye on education in Santa Clarita and across the nation. But like the show says, we keep our eye on the Valley as well, bringing you everything that you need to know about what's what here in the Valley. And we do so while trying to bring a smile to your face and warming up and bringing a little bit more sunshine through your window. We've got a fantastic show for you today. Really excited about today. We're going to start with a local lifeguard who's gearing up for the summer season. He'll share some safety tips for you and your kids this summer. We've also got Mayor Jason Gibbs in just a bit. He'll be calling in, and we'll catch up with the mayor, see what's going on with the city. And in hour number 2, we've got Michaela Middleton. Michaela is part of the student support team at iLead Exploration. That's the homeschool program that I mentioned earlier. You know, as a parent, I never thought that I could homeschool my kids, but with all the support that iLead Exploration offers, anybody can homeschool. Yeah, they offer you as much or as little support as you need as a parent. And yes, we will wrap the show like we do. Big T will be here to end the show with some fun and some trivia. You know, I'm not allowed to have nice things of my own, so my mom makes me put my brother on the show and give him a little bit of play. So we do have a great show. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. My first guest today is Jordan Thomas. Jordan is a local young man from Santa Clarita. He graduated from Trinity Classical Academy and then went on to Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, go Lopes, where he earned his business degree, his BA in business management, and then promptly returned to the Santa Clarita Valley to open his own business. Apparently that degree's paying off already. Jordan, welcome to Eye on the Valley.
Matt, thank you so much for having me this morning.
Glad to have you. So your business is called Mr. Jordan Swims. Love it. Love the name.
Can't forget it. Pretty simple.
Right,
straight to the point.
And then they know exactly what to call you when you walk through the door. So you offer group and private swim lessons, right? And then you also provide lifeguarding?
I offer private lessons in Santa Clarita as well as lifeguarding services, yes.
Okay, fantastic. So how did you get started in this line of work? Where did this business idea come from?
The idea came from, at first I was going to get Red Cross certified for lifeguarding in order to be a lifeguard at Hurricane Harbor.
Oh, okay.
The local water park.
Yeah.
That ended up not working out for one reason or another. And
Okay.
my mother actually suggested that I start teaching swim lessons.
Okay.
So I had a few clients, and I was so young when I started teaching swim lessons that
Really?
Mom was driving me to my first clients. I didn't even have a driver's license.
I like it. So you actually started this business before you went to college and got your business degree.
This is actually my 10th season of doing swim lessons.
Get out, and you're still a young man. Okay, gosh, so you did start early. Very cool. So you teach private swim lessons, but your business provides certified. So it says here certified lifeguards. There's more than one of you?
Yeah, so I'm a certified lifeguard.
All right.
Not that swim instructors need to be, but it's good. It's good safety.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
And then yes, I have lifeguards who work for me, and then they're Red Cross certified, and I'm able to schedule them with private parties all over Santa Clarita and out of town as well.
Fantastic. So you've got a whole team working for you.
Whole team.
Nice. I like it. So have you always been into swimming, water sports, things like that?
I've always been in love with the water, yes. I've been in love with the ocean. My family used to go to the lake a lot.
Okay.
Always around pools, so the water is...
Always been around water.
Uh-huh.
All right. So we're coming into that season. You know, we're in May now. Weather's starting to warm up. Those pools are starting to warm up. I mentioned my brother earlier. He's got a heater in his pool, so he and I have already been doing stuff. So
it's starting to warm up, but you're right, this is May.
Yeah.
All my pools are heated. So
Okay.
when it's hot, the pools are 86 degrees. But I've been swimming since March 3rd. So all my pools since March 3rd have been 90 degrees.
Okay, so you've been gearing up for summer for quite a while.
I've been going since March.
All right, fantastic. And that avoids that shock of getting in the pool earlier in the spring.
Exactly.
So what are some of the things that pool owners or even a family that's going to, a neighbor's house, a friend's house for a barbecue, something like that, what do they need to think about when it comes to pool safety? What are some of the protocols that people need to know about?
When going over and you're planning not to swim, I would ask parents to explain that we're here for another reason, but we're not here to swim. So the kids don't even think about entertaining by the pool. And just in general, when families are around the pool, knowing that they can't play on the edge of the pool, because kids like to test the limits, of course.
Sure.
I see it all the time working parties. So kids like to test their limits, so just make sure they're not trying to test their limits when they know it's not swim time. There's swim time, and then there's not swim time.
Right. So, do you recommend like the pool fences, or do you prefer more teaching the kids to have that healthy respect to the swimming pool?
Depending on how young the kids are in the house, and
right.
then friends that are coming over with same-age children, I definitely suggest a pool fence.
Okay, and then
because an excuse I hear often is that pool fences are ugly, and they are. They are ugly, but
they take away from the aesthetic of one of the big reasons we put pools in. Yeah,
but they protect some of the most precious things in your household. So
you're absolutely right, Jordan.
Get that ugly fence.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And they don't have to be ugly. They're made to be where you can still see through and things like that. It's not so bad.
Yeah.
And so teaching kids to have a healthy respect and what we're doing around the pool, what we're not doing, and then when kids are in the pool, is there anything that parents need to in particular be aware of, be alert of, or remind themselves?
I like to remind kids that when we're in the pool, there's always a goal of where we're swimming to. Because there's swimmers that are able to take a breath. Sometimes they're strong enough to take a breath when they're swimming. Sometimes they're not.
Okay.
So the swimmers that aren't strong enough to take a breath, it's you're swimming from me to where are we going? Are we going to the wall? Are we going to the step? Are we going to the Baja? Are we going to mom? So there's always an end goal in the swim.
Okay. All right, so they kind of
and that'll prevent kids from tiring themselves out or getting distracted or turning around.
Yeah, kind of taking on more than they can handle because they really don't have that end goal. That's a really important point. So tell us about the lessons. What is it that you provide? If I call and say, hey, I want my kid to, he's dog paddling now, but I need him to get a little bit stronger, more proficient. What can I expect when I call you or your team?
Right now for swim instructors, it's just me.
Okay.
I'm looking to hire more instructors, but don't have any at the moment.
Okay.
My program is 10 days of 15-minute lessons, Monday through Friday.
Oh, okay.
Typically for 2 weeks.
All right.
Unless there's a holiday, and then we might swim through the weekend, which my website would definitely state before you registered. But each lesson, like I said, 15 minutes a day, Monday through Friday. We work on pool safety, stroke development, and I work with infants. So I have, right now, I have a 7-month-old that I'll be swimming with later today.
Really?
And then I have 8-year-olds who just never learned how to swim.
Sure.
The fear is there.
Yeah.
They're old enough to feel the fear.
Yeah.
I teach adults as well. So anyone that's looking for help in the pool to get better, whether it be more confident, whether it be faster, stronger, we can do that.
Okay, so somebody who's comfortable in the pool and can swim but looking to get more proficient might hire you. And then, and you said all ages. You've got a 7-month-old all the way up to adults.
All the way up to adults. Adults who are terrified of the pool. And a great example of a kid being comfortable in the water, but the parents still signing up for swim lessons, even though he's definitely pool safe. I had a little boy show up last Monday. I'm finishing up a session today, so today's day 10 of a session.
Okay.
I had a little boy show up last Monday. And he was doing freestyle across the pool. He was doing something that almost looked like breaststroke. And he looks good. He looks comfortable in the pool. He definitely wouldn't panic if he fell in.
All right.
But yesterday I taught him a flip turn.
Okay. Oh, all right.
So he's got flip turns. We're able to tread water now.
He's
putting his ear in the water to breathe on his freestyle. So cleaning up the stroke is a service that I provide as well.
All right, fantastic. So kids that might be real comfortable in the water but are starting to ramp up and getting ready to compete.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So you provide it all. Great. So you mentioned your website. So how do folks get in touch with you? Again, if they're looking for a lifeguard for an event or I'm going to a party later on this weekend, going to be a lot of people there. They may be a good idea to have a lifeguard, or for swim lessons for anybody of any age. How do folks get a hold of you, Jordan?
Thank you for asking. My website is Mr. Jordan Swims. Can't forget it.
Easy to remember. Okay.
I try to keep it simple.
And that's MrJordanswims.com.
.com.
All right.
There's a form on there with hosted pools, which just means that I've already set a location, and you can drive to the location and select your time slot for the 2 weeks. And then I have another form that parents are able to fill out for private lessons, which means I come to the home and teach at your house.
So you do group and private. You come to me with a group of folks, or I come to you. And...
Well, the structure is the same. The structure is always 15 minutes,
Okay.
one child at a time.
Oh, all
the
right.
only difference for the private lessons is I will travel to one pool for 2 or 3 kids, 2 kids minimum.
Okay. Oh, I see.
But if people want to stay in the comfort of their home for the lessons, then that's
Sure.
an option that
I want my
I
kid
have
to
as
get
well.
comfortable with our pool, the pool that he's going to be swimming in.
Exactly. The website has everything. The website has a form for people who are interested in being hired as a lifeguard.
Mm-hmm.
The website has a form for people who are looking to hire a lifeguard.
All right.
Everything can be found at MrJordanswims.com.
Fantastic. I was looking at the site just the other day. It's a fantastic site. Very well built.
I found someone that I trust a lot, and he's doing a fantastic job designing the website.
Nicely done. Mr. Jordan Swims, offering group and private swim lessons and private lifeguarding. You can find him again at MrJordanswims.com, or give him a call at 661. We're okay to give out this. It's on your website, man. We're
Please
okay
do.
to give it.
Thank you, Matt.
661-230-9349. 661-230-9349. Or again, the website is a great website. He's got all the information on there, Mr. Jordan Swims. Jordan, thanks for stopping by. Have a wonderful summer, and good luck with your business.
I appreciate you having me on this morning. Thank you so much, Matt.
It is good to have you. I'm Matt Watson. You're listening to SCVI and iLead Schools, Eye on the Valley. We've got Mayor Jason Gibbs calling in next here on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. My name is Matt Watson, and you are listening to SCVI and iLead Schools, Eye on the Valley. My next guest, I believe we've got him on. He is our city's mayor. He's in his 3rd year on the Santa Clarita City Council, and it's his mayoral year. But even before being elected to City Council, Jason Gibbs had built quite an impressive career as a mechanical engineer. That's right, he's the principal engineer of West Coast operations with the aerospace company GP Strategies Corporation. Jason grew up in the Santa Barbara area, graduating from Bishop Diego High School before he headed up the 101 a little bit further to attend Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where he earned his master's degree in mechanical engineering. And he and his wife Chandra moved here to Santa Clarita in 2012, where Jason quickly got involved, volunteering on boards all across the city and in programs such as the Boys and Girls Club Advisory Board, Family Promise of Santa Clarita, and via the Valley Industry Association. Mayor Gibbs, welcome back to Eye on the Valley. Good to have you, sir.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Good to have you on. We figured we'd do a little mid-year check-in with you as you're about halfway through your term as mayor. So first of all, how you liking it so far? Is it different being mayor than it is, and I don't want to say just a council member, but I'm sure it's a little bit different. And how's your term going?
Man, it's been good. The one thing I never expected is, Matt, when I get the opportunity, I like to volunteer in my kids' classrooms.
Yeah.
And the kids now call me Mayor Pickles.
Mayor Pickles?
I don't know what to do with that. I became Mayor Pickle. And I asked one of them, I said, well, when I'm not mayor, what are you going to call me? And they said, just Pickles.
I see a comic book coming up in the future.
You know what? It could write itself. But, Matt, it's been going well. It's funny that you mentioned it. As the mayor, you don't have any more special abilities or rules over governance or anything like that, but you do serve as that figurehead leader of the council, if you will, even though the council members, we all hold the same influence and same power in our votes when we vote on issues or items. But not everybody in the community always knows that. And so when you get introduced as the mayor, people look at you a little differently or talk to you differently, and it's, oh, look, the mayor's here. And, you're still just the same old guy. You're still just Jason. But I'll tell you what, it is an absolute honor. I know my dad is finally proud of me and finally includes me in the Christmas cards every year, so I couldn't be happier with that.
Well, and that sash probably brings a little bit more formality to the role as well, right? Do you always wear this?
Of course.
So, so I kind of alluded to it here in Santa Clarita. There's 5 of you on the city council, and you kind of rotate every year as mayor. It's not a 4-term mayorship. Y'all take turns.
That's right.
So, can you explain a little bit why our city chooses its mayor the way that it does, rather than having like a separate election and a separate office, like, for example, the city of Los Angeles does?
Well, I would have told you without knowing the answer originally. I would just tell you it's because if we didn't have a rotating mayor, it would just be Cameron every year. I hope Cameron's listening because I love Cameron. But actually, Matt, if you look back, as I understand it, when we formed and had our first election for the council back in '87, the mayor was just selected, I believe, by who had the most votes in that election.
Oh, I see.
So when we originally started, I believe that's why Buck McKeon served as our first mayor. And then we just went rotational. And it's funny, when I thought about this question, I got to the internet and Googled it a little bit, and there have been a number of articles written since our inception about should the city switch to having an elected mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And people often ask me about it. My view on it is, if you can tell me why having an elected mayor in Santa Clarita will be better for the governance, would be better overall for the structure or the community, or provide something that isn't provided, then I'm more than willing to listen.
Yeah.
But at the moment, for me, I like the rotating mayor in the sense that it keeps people in check.
Right.
You don't feel entitled to something. You don't feel that you have more authority or more power over your other council members simply because you hold that title. And I think it offers an ability for everyone to work collaboratively more together, because you always feel that you're on the same plane. If you start jumping into an elected mayor, and the question that gets asked is, well, what comes with it? Do you start having control over the budget? Do you start holding veto power? Do you have the ability to pull things off the agenda, even if you have a majority vote from council to agendize?
Sure.
Does the city manager now just report to you, and the council is just there as the secondary elected body with votes? So there's a lot that happens in the governance structure to switch to an elected mayor. And when you think about all those things, I always ask, well, what will that bring us that would be better for the community of Santa Clarita, for the city of Santa Clarita, that isn't offered now? And so for me, I've always enjoyed the structure as it is. I don't have an issue with it. But at the end of the day, if the community really wanted something else and the city wanted to make a change, you can't always take it to the ballot box to have a vote on it and move the city to a charter city with an elected mayor.
Sure. Now, so I'm happy with the current system, but would be open to hearing arguments for changing it. I like it because it's much more of, as you mentioned, a shared governance model where I feel like it does give more of a voice to the electorate. So I feel like folks can reach out to different council members who have all the same amount of power, and that's helpful to everybody in town. Now, there is a change coming, not in how our mayor is selected, but in how all of you are elected, right? We currently have 5 council members chosen in an at-large election.
Correct.
So in theory, all 5 of you could live right next door to each other, right? But that's about to change. Can you explain what's changing, and more importantly, why is it changing, and then how's that going to affect the city and you, the council members?
Sure. So I'll try to summarize best I can. The reality is, Matt, is the city came under the California Voting Rights Act lawsuit, and it's not the first time it's happened. It happened, you're probably talking about 8 to 10 years ago now, where there was discussion under the CVRA. So the CVRA, in essence, basically suggests that district voting may be necessary for cities if you can prove the dilution of a minority protected class's ability to elect their leaders. So another way to think about it is if you have a community in your city of a particular protected ethnicity, but they are overshadowed by the rest of your city's population, the argument that CVRA says is, well, they'll never be able to elect or influence the election, if you will, of the person that they want to govern, which is why you start seeing districts coming out. And this started happening over the last decade in most of our municipalities. I believe the city of Santa Clarita out here in the Santa Clarita Valley, I believe we're the only governance left that has remained at large. And
right, all of the school districts are by areas and little pockets like that.
And the water district as well.
Yeah.
The water district is. And one of the reasons I think we've stayed this way so long is because we've truly believed that since our formation, the city wanted at-large voting. They wanted to have an actual electoral way to participate in the election of every one of our leaders. So what's happening now is with the settlement of this second lawsuit is we're now moving to districts. So you will have five districts, so 5 geographical areas of the city that will now elect one person to serve on the city council. That doesn't mean that the other 4 that you no longer can vote for don't influence or don't have a vote on issues that will affect your voting community anymore. It just means you only have the ability to have an electoral influence by your vote on one of the 5.
Right.
And I think that the city fought it for a long time. I think we just culturally believe that that's not the best representation of government. We never have, even as we've grown. But the CVRA, in our opinion, I think has limited our options to be able to stand against it. So that change is coming. So the first district elections will be happening in 2024. We've been working on the generation of the maps. So right now we're in the public phase where the public can go to the city's website and check under the link for district elections where you can see the maps that are being drawn and contemplated in terms of representation. And that process will conclude no later than the end of June. So by the end of June, we will have the layout of what the district elections will be in 2024. In terms of how does that affect the current council, it'll affect the current council greatly. I think if you look at where the map lineups are, you made a comment earlier about council members that live close together.
Yep.
And the reality is at least 3 of the council members do live in close proximity. And that was one of the arguments that people would say who supported districts is, well, they only represent that area. But I would argue if you look at the work the city's done, the money investment that we put into the community and infrastructure, the majority is done outside of those areas. And we don't make our votes and we don't pick our projects based on where does a council member live. It's always been based on where is the highest need and how can we improve the quality of life for everybody in this valley. And so my hope is as we move to districts that representatives that come onto the city council as the years go by don't bring a district belief to their to their operations on the dais. You need to be able to think citywide. You need to focus always what's on best for the city, even if you're only elected at a district level. And the last thing I'd say is so what'll happen now is we'll have 2 districts that will be up for election in 2024.
All right.
The settlement requires one to be called the minority district, and that's currently being drafted as well. And then there'll be a secondary district that's drawn up from there. And then moving into 26, there'll be 3 districts that'll be up for election in 26. And then we just continue moving forward with district elections.
All right, interesting. And you're right. It makes sense that if there's at-large elections, then each of you that sits on the city council is obligated to make sure that you're working on behalf of the entire city. It can be tempting when it's just by smaller areas to work to benefit that area. You could argue that that's a good thing, but we'll see how it goes, I guess. Huh? This is a done deal, and time will tell.
Exactly, Matt. And, I tell people, well, if you want an example of how it can be bad, we've been talking about Camp Scott in Santa Clarita for a couple of years now. And our district supervisor, Captain Barger, was highly against wanting to change the use of Camp Scott and made that very clear to the rest of the board. But the rest of the board sided and said, no, we want to use Camp Scott for that. So there's an argument that says, this is my district. I'm the one who should have the say on what happens in it. But the other members can still vote to do something different in your area.
Sure.
And that's no different here. So if you start, if as an elected official in district elections, if you start going into that mindset of my district, my vote, I think you're going to alienate council members going forward, and it can create bad governance. So that's why I always say whoever comes forward in these positions as the years go by, you need to stick to the foundation as you continue to try and improve Santa Clarita in your own ways, on remembering that you do represent everyone, even if you're only going to be elected by a fifth of the vote now.
Right. You're exactly right. That's going to be extremely important, but it's going to be up to the folks that hold that office as we move forward.
That's right.
Now, Mayor Gibbs, you stay pretty busy. I know there are a lot of events around town, a lot of different things that as a council member you're not required to, but kind of obligated to attend because it's all part of city governance. And then as mayor, like you said before, there's always a little bit more cachet that goes along with that. So how do you manage to balance all the different things that pull at you as mayor, and then also someone who works and has a very important and challenging job? You've got a young family, because I mean, you're asked to speak at engagements all the time. There are ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings, community events, not to mention all the requests from, well, the noble and esteemed members of the local press. And you've got a lovely wife and small kids who are playing baseball and doing all the things. And like I said, you've got a demanding job. Is it hard? How do you keep balance?
Yeah, I don't sugarcoat it, Matt. It is extremely hard. I am grateful. I truly am grateful for the opportunity to do it. But the two key things that really make it happen is an extremely patient and loving wife and a job that is very understanding. And so I always tell people, they ask me, what's your typical day? I said, well, it usually starts about 5 in the morning, and you get about an hour and a half in of just kind of checking in on what your day is going to be, catching up on your emails for your day job, and then it's time to take the kids to school. And then normally you're jumping in between meetings for my business or meetings and engagements related to the city council. And then that moves forward in the afternoon. Time to go pick up the kids. And then normally, like you said, now you're getting to the time where there's ribbon cuttings, speaking events, or you go into the evenings and you have speaking events. So my big thing is I always try to be there for my kids' practices, for taking them to school. So I see them in the morning to get their day started, picking them up, see how the day went. And I always try to get home before, bath time and bedtime. And once the kids are down, then it's probably another 2 to 4 hours of getting back on the day job. And then the weekends is just the catch up and the continuation of all of that. So it's a 7-day thing. The one place I consider my own personal failure, though, Matt, is I have the hardest time telling people no. And one of the reasons that is, it's like you said in regards to being the mayor. I don't wear that title as this crown. But I think about when Cub Scouts or group packs want to come and meet the mayor. I said, well, that is a big deal. Yeah. It's not so much the big deal that it's me. It's the position that comes with it. And it's the title to be able to say that the mayor of Santa Clarita took time to sit with us and talk with us about governance in the community. And I feel that it's an obligation that I take and I looked forward to be able to be there and to support our community and to come to events and to come to these ribbon cuttings and to show these small businesses that your local government is not just figureheads. We truly care. We're truly excited to have people that are invested in this community and want to grow this community. And so I feel that it's not only an obligation, but it's an honor to be there and spend those times. So while the gray hair is coming and those beautiful red sideburns you see are starting to silver out, it's okay. I'm okay with it.
Well, I love your commitment to making sure that our local government truly is representative and responsive. And I've always admired, because I know how busy you are. I see you're at all the things, man, but still you're always making sure that you take time to spend quality time with your kids. Like you said, you put a priority on dropping off and picking up from school, and those are special times, because that's where life is made as kids are growing up, is in the routine, in the daily, in the mundane. So I do admire you, and it takes a lot of scheduling, I guess. Now you talked a lot about the events that you attend, and I actually ran into you last week at one of my favorite events of the year, the Santa Clarita Man and Woman of the Year Dinner and Gala. Not because my mother was named Woman of the Year in 2013. Love you, Mom. But because it honors volunteerism and recognizes a couple dozen of our community's most generous and dedicated volunteers, which is something that I think our community is built on. This year's winners were Don Kimball and Jenny Ketchapaw. Can you talk for just a minute about Don and Jenny, because you had some very special things to say about both of them that evening, but also can you talk about the importance of volunteerism and the impact that the not dozens but thousands of volunteers around town have on our community?
Sure. The winners, Matt, it's funny when we go to events like this or I have ribbon cutting, normally we prepare notes. I try to get my thoughts together about what we're there to do and say some nice things. I didn't have anything. And I completely, honestly for me, I completely forgot that, the mayor usually comes up and, we present our city certificate and say some words. I had absolutely nothing. And it was Ed that sent me a note that said, "Hey Jay, I know I was going to give you a heads up, but I know that you're going to have lots of great things to say." So everything that I set up there was truly just from the heart and on the spot. And what I loved most about the two winners this year with Don and Jenny is you're seeing the representation of one, a gentleman who's from the previous generation of leadership and giving in the city of Santa Clarita. And then now you have Jenny as well, the other winner, who is that next generation, who's more your and my generation, who's doing the work that was set by the foundation of those before us. And it was so great to see, because I think it's very similar when I came onto the city council and replaced former councilman Bob Keller. Is there people who have been leaders in this community that have created one of the safest, warmest, prosperous areas that we have in LA County? Is we need to honor that legacy and also add our own to it. But you can't do one without the other.
Yeah.
And I saw this with these two winners. Jenny's obviously very involved with the Boys and Girls Club and the JC. She pours her heart to it. That lady, it's not just her love for community involvement and wanting to be involved in the process. She puts the rubber on the road, and she gets the work done, and she's putting in those long hours when we come together for the auctions, the big Boys and Girls Club auction coming this summer. That doesn't happen by accident. It's not happened by, paid people working together. It is a group of people who are volunteers spending the hours and time that they can for a good cause. And Don, I only had met Don once before in my life, and it was at a Boys and Girls Club auction, and I mentioned that in my speech. And it was very brief. I happened to see Bob Keller there at the time, and this is when I'm a total fledgling to Santa Clarita and community events. And Bob took me across the room and introduced me to Don Kimball. And it was probably a 10, 20-second conversation. And as Don walked away, Bob literally looked at me and said, "Jason, that is one of the finest men we've ever had in Santa Clarita." And what came with that, it wasn't just his work with Newhall Land and Farm and literally building this community. It was all of the work he did in the nonprofit world, especially with, I know the senior center is one of his big ones, and he's still back there working with the senior center 30 years later.
Yep.
And when you talk about that, the backbone of Santa Clarita, the good governance that we've had and the prosperity that we've enjoyed in so many facets, it has come from people who have invested their time and their efforts and their hearts into building the community that we live in. And it's not an accident. And so the Man and Woman of the Year event really highlights what truly is the best of Santa Clarita. And it's the people that not only do they make their living here, but they're making their mark here. And this is a very special way that we honor that and recognize that.
It does. It's an amazing event, and like I said, it's one of my favorites of the year. Mayor Jason Gibbs is joining us this morning. When we get back, Mayor Gibbs, I want to talk to you about somebody that you've mentioned a couple of times and the legacy that he paid forward in you. I'm talking about former council member Bob Keller, and I also want to get some updates from you on some things that you identified as priorities when you were inaugurated. It's accountability time, so we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back. I'm Matt Watson with Mayor Jason Gibbs. You're listening to SCVI and iLead Schools Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson, your host, and you are listening to SCVI and iLead Schools Eye on the Valley. We're talking this morning with our mayor, Jason Gibbs. Jason, it's so good to have you back on the show. We appreciate checking in with you. I mentioned before, I wanted to check in. The last time you were on the show was back in January. You had just started, and I said, all right, so what have you got on the docket? What are your priorities for your term as mayor? And you mentioned three things in specific, and they were big projects. I can't imagine that they've all gotten done in 6 months, but I want to check kind of the status and just kind of see how things are going. So you mentioned back in January that one of your priorities was the multimodal station at Vista Canyon, and I drive by there pretty frequently, and I see a lot of the work going on over there. But can you tell me, are we on track with this, and what is this going to bring to our city?
Oh, yeah, so Vista Canyon is definitely still underway and under construction. I did an update. I was thinking about this the other day. We did an update with a couple of the real estate groups in town talking about all these projects, and the multimodal center is one of them. So it's nearing completion, and as you know, Matt, it's going to be similar to what we have with the McBean Regional Transit Center, and it'll be what will be now the fourth MetroLink station just here in Santa Clarita. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. It's a community that has provided options right near those who are going to be living there, where the car becomes optional because of the access that you have to the MetroLink and the Antelope Valley line. So right now, along with nearing completion, we do anticipate that we will be done and have that open before the end of the year. So I think they're looking at the late third quarter time frame in order to be up and running. So everything still looks good on the multimodal center.
That'll be awesome as you finish your year as mayor to be able to say, check, I got it done.
Well, I know. That's why you tell them, see, Matt, this is the one thing that you learn once you get there is when a project gets completed, we always put up a city plaque, and those who serve on the council get their names up there. And so this is the year something gets done. My name says, they'll say Mayor Jason Gibbs out there for the foreseeable future.
It'll say Mayor Jason Gibbs, not Mayor Pickle?
Well, you know what? It might say Mayor Pickles if you let those August Union School District kids have their way with it, which, you know what, would be okay, too. Maybe they can put it in quotes as kind of like a nickname.
So for those of you that are just tuning in, I'm not being disrespectful. This was a nickname that some of the kids out at one of our local schools gave Mayor Jason Gibbs. Mayor Gibbs, you also mentioned that you were excited about the build-out at Central Park. And, I'm just up the road from Central Park and enjoy it all the time. So can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there? It's grown so much. I remember when it was broccoli fields, but what's going on? What's developing at Central Park?
Broccoli field.
Oh, it was terrible. Playing football out there at Saugus High School when they're harvesting broccoli. Do you know what broccoli smells like when it's being harvested?
Oh my goodness. Well, no, Matt, Central Park build out is currently under construction and going well. I believe we were looking at 4 new lighted sports field that we're adding. More parking, which obviously will be beneficial with the summer months coming and concerts in the park getting ready to light up underway.
Yeah.
More lighted pathways. And then I know that a lot of people were excited that we put in a 172 stair exercise staircase up on the back. And I mentioned this at the real estate meeting. Someone posted that it's called Petzold Mountain. I cannot confirm that is an official designation, but I have seen it on Facebook.
All right. I like it. And you know what? I think that's...
And someone did ask, and I want to clarify, the staircase does not impact the currently existing Central Park Trail.
Oh, okay.
So one does not interfere with the other. Both are still good to use as their own separate exercise options.
Perfect. I love it. And then also right in my neck of the woods, Bouquet Canyon, you said you were working on a mountain bike park. How cool is that? So can you tell us about what that is and how that's coming?
Yes. So that came up again this year. So right now we're in the getting ready to have the draft budget come out to council. We've had the study sessions and the original preview of what's expected. So last year, as one of our capital improvement projects, was the Blue Cloud Bike Park. And it was going to be up in the open space up there off of Haskell Canyon, just to the east of Haskell Canyon and north of Copper Hill over by the archery range. Mm-hmm. And I was really excited about that one because it's the city's one of the city's first real attempts at a big regional draw activity, especially a sporting activity, which when you talk about the future of Santa Clarita, for me personally, Matt, I think this is going to be one of the directions that we go, where we start bringing in these real unique large area draw activities, and Blue Cloud Mountain Bike Park is going to be one of those. And so what happened is we put it out for what was called a design build, and at the time we actually didn't get a response. So what we did is it's now been switched to a separate design and then a separate construction piece, which is still all part of the current CIP. And so that has been out. We've awarded the design piece, right, and the company is currently underway doing the design of that park. Along with that, as a potential option, is we're looking at the option of building a BMX sanctioned track out there. We already have one that's kind of in plan, if you will, over at the sports complex. But there's discussion of if the area could handle a sanctioned BMX piece as well, along with this very unique large draw mountain bike park, that'd be cool. We really could have something kind of incredible out there. So I think we're looking toward the end of the year to get the design back. So I would expect sometime maybe first quarter of 24 where we would be discussing what we're actually going to build based off the design recommendations that comes from that contractor. So I'm really excited about this because I really do believe this can kind of set the tone for projects that create these real, unique, state-of-the-art, large drawed items that will start bringing sports tourism into Santa Clarita even more than it already has.
Yeah, it'll bring a lot of economic benefit to our community, but also just improve the quality of life and provide some amazing opportunities for our locals here in town. So when we spoke in January, Mayor Gibbs, you also mentioned some challenges. You mentioned the challenge of maintaining local control. I was discussing this with a colleague just the other day, and some of the things, y'all are doing great things, building and improving the quality of life here in Santa Clarita, but part of government also brings regulations, restrictions, and requirements, right? Those dreaded 3 R's. And oftentimes we have those things placed on us by higher levels of government. And that's been frustrating for a lot of us here in Santa Clarita for a while, especially in a community that is so well-planned, well-governed, well-run. When another entity, be it the county, the state, or what have you, comes in and places restrictions on a community that they really don't know as well as our local government. Are you seeing any movement on that at all?
I lost you. Did you ask if I've seen any?
Are you seeing any movement to where we're able to, as a city, make some of those important decisions on those regulations, restrictions, and requirements, or is that still something that we're kind of under the thumb of the county and the state in a lot of areas that do affect us locally?
No, we're definitely under the thumb, and my own personal view is I think the thumb is getting ready to press harder. And I would argue with you it's mostly from the state. And what happened, Matt, is one of the biggest challenges that the state deals with is housing. And most estimates have the amount of housing that's lacking in this state, I believe, to be now over 1 million units. And affordable housing is obviously a very big discussion, along with homelessness that we deal with here locally and that the state deals with. So what has come to happen is right now, cities and municipalities are required to build their housing elements, and they're given allocations of how much housing they need to produce. And, for us here in the city, I think one of the recent updates, they're called RHNA numbers, the Regional Housing Needs Assessments, is even with our general plan, there was a call on from the state to build, I think it's an additional 10,000 units above and beyond what we're already trying to plan and prepare for. Mm-hmm. And so at the moment, what you need to do as a city is prepare for it. You need to plan, you need to identify areas, zone areas to be able to accommodate these housing needs. Well, you're getting people now in elected office at the state that are saying, cities still aren't doing enough. So we need to help them. And they're coming up with ways to, as you mentioned, to remove local control. And for example, there's 2 bills being heard now. I believe it's SB 4 and maybe SB 423. One of them in particular was what they're doing is they lower the cost of developments by exempting CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act.
Right.
And on its face, you say, oh, well, that's good because maybe some of the CEQA obligations are very tedious and very expensive and increase the cost of housing. But what the state's doing is they say, well, we'll give you CEQA exemptions if you're building the type of housing that we want and where we want it. and will also allow you to ignore some of the local zoning ordinances. And one of the big ones that we dealt with in the last couple of years is housing developments that are within 1,000 feet of a high transit corridor or like a Metrolink station. And it's this belief from the state level that says, well, if you're very close to a, like a rail project, well, then you don't need parking. So they give you exemptions. So as a city, we may say, no, we need, 2.5 parking spots per unit, let's say, if that's the number. Well, now they have rules from the state that says, no, the cities can't put a parking requirement on you, so now you can build more housing because you don't need to build parking. And they've also expanded that into commercial lots. They're also doing things like, well, if you convert a commercial building to a residential building, you can bypass local ordinances and local parking ordinances and even bypass height restrictions. So all the things that the city that we look to implement, we do that because there's a character of the community that we're trying to protect and enhance. And we don't do it to try to stifle building. We don't do it to try to stop growth per se. But you want growth to be smart, to be complementary to the community that you've created. And the state's kind of taken more of a blunt approach to say, nope, we need housing, so we're going to help you get housing by helping get you out of the way of yourself. And one of the comments that was made during the hearing by the author of the bill, as he said, was in one city, they zoned a housing project on an area that had just built a brand-new Target shopping center.
Okay.
And the argument was, well, you can zone it all you want, but the Target shopping center is not going to disappear. So are you really planning for housing if you're zoning it in places that don't make sense? So using this one example from this one city, maybe making a zoning argument or a zoning plan that isn't going to build housing in the near future, they're coming in with these big sweeping legislations in order to allow communities to come in and create what's called, these builder remedies and to build projects. And what that ends up doing here at the local level is we're no longer given this real option to look at a project, to come up with changes, to let staff really get into it and talk about the infrastructure needs and, the X, Y's, and Z's of architecture and details. And we're getting forced to go into this position of saying, well, we can either approve a project like this, or because of these new state laws, they could find a builder that wants to build a certain kind of housing, come in and just knock it out. And so I feel like we're getting put in the position of picking between projects and not really selecting what's the best.
Yeah. Mayor Gibbs, we do have to wrap. We thank you so much for joining us today, sir. Thank you for your leadership and all you do. I'm Matt Watson. You're listening to SCVI and I Lead Schools Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. I am Matt Watson, your host, and you're listening to SCVI and I Lead Schools Eye on the Valley. He is Engineer Carlos on the ones and twos. I love what you did there, putting the iLead Exploration commercial right in front of the Mercedes-Benz commercial, because everybody knows that iLead Exploration is the Mercedes-Benz of independent study programs in public schooling. We are coming to you live from the center of Main Street here in downtown Newhall, and my next guest is Michaela Middleton. Michaela is an educational specialist at iLead Exploration. She was born and raised in Virginia, where she also studied and obtained a bachelor's degree in elementary and special education at Liberty University. She is also autism credentialed and has her EL certification, so gosh, she can really just provide an amazing quality education to just about any kid out there. Michaela has worked as a special education teacher in a brick and mortar or classroom-based setting in Virginia with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, in addition to teaching 6th grade English in the general education online setting. So multiple formats. She loves working with families to provide their learners with a personalized and effective approach to learning while meeting their individual needs. Michaela loves the freedom and flexibility that iLead's program allows for families to meet each learner right where they are. Michaela, welcome to Eye on the Valley.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Glad to have you. So glad that you were able to join us. So tell us, I mentioned in your intro that you worked at a classroom-based school, a brick-and-mortar school. How did that lead to transitioning to working for iLead Exploration? How'd you find us, and how long have you been with us?
Awesome. So, yes, you are correct. I did start my teaching journey in the brick-and-mortar or classroom-based school setting. I taught inclusion in first grade, very first, and then I moved quickly into teaching middle school. I was working with learners in the inclusion setting as a co-teacher, and then I was also teaching those more impacted learners in a self-contained or special day class style setting. I was teaching their language arts curriculum. And then from there, this crazy thing called COVID happened. And when COVID happened, the school and district that I was working for, they pivoted like we all did, right? And they decided that they were going to create a virtual school to offer the learners for the following school year, so that those learners who, might be more impacted to not be able to go in person even on, the couple days a week, and each school did their own thing. So our district created a virtual school that our learners could enroll in for the following year. So I was asked and selected to be on the planning committee for that. And I also helped develop and implement the English curriculum for middle school. So it was the general education middle school curriculum for English. And I discovered how much I loved doing that type of thing. So I was working on my computer. I was brainstorming new and innovative ways to reach kiddos in a different format. And then from there, I had a fantastic mentor who actually was one of my professors in college. She said, "Michaela, have you ever thought about teaching virtually?" And I said, "That is so funny because I'm currently working on this." And she said, "Well, if you have, I really think that you should check out iLead Exploration."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Well, what's iLead?" And she said, "Go look it up. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to throw your name into the hat with one of my other students from years ago who is now working for iLead." And I was like, "Sure, absolutely." And so then all the things happened at all the right times. I did my research. My husband said, "Michaela, it sounds too good to be true." And I said, "I know. Will you look it up for me too?" So he did his research and he looked it up and he said, "Okay, well, you have to do it." And I was like, "You're right, I do." So here I am, and when I started working with iLead Exploration, I was an education specialist. I worked with our high school learners, and then that was, goodness gracious, I'm wrapping up year 3. So now I'm one of our lead education specialists, and I directly support our team of middle school ed specs, and I love it.
Very cool. So I do want to get into what your role as an education specialist is, what that is and what you do. But before we do that, I want to give you the opportunity or ask you to kind of correct me and clarify for your audience. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about iLead Exploration and what the education model is? Because I oftentimes, even here on the radio, I'll call it homeschool all the time, but there are differences that are more than just semantics, right? You're an independent study program, not necessarily what they call a PSA or a private homeschool option. So can you explain what the education model is for iLead Exploration?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, there is kind of this myth out there that we are a homeschool, and that can be confusing because we are an independent study program, but we are a public school. We're a public charter school. So learners enroll with us into our school, and we are independent study. So most of our learners do their education or a majority of their academics at their home setting. They're participating in different types of curriculum, but they're enrolled with us as a public charter school, and so they work directly with a general education teacher to choose curriculums, to track and monitor progress, to monitor attendance, and then they're also, if they are a learner who has an IEP or needs student support services, then they're able to access those through us since we are a public school.
And I love that. Like any public school, we are required to, and it's not something that's imposed on us, although it is a legal requirement. We provide all the education services, including special education, that any student in any public school would have access to. So talk about that for a little bit, because that's your role with Exploration, is in that what we call the special education field. You are an education specialist. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means and what your role entails in this independent study model? What does that look like? Because you're not pulling kids out of class. You're not pushing into kids' class because, well, they're at home working. So what's your role and what does it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am what we would consider an education specialist. Those are your special education teachers.
Right.
And our role here is it's multifold, right? Just like in any other setting. What we do is we serve as the learner's case manager. So if a learner has an IEP or an individualized education plan, then we act as case manager for that learner. So we schedule the meetings that need to be held. We make sure that the paperwork is updated by the time that it's supposed to. We are communicating and collaborating with the general education teachers and maybe other related service providers. So if the learner needs speech therapy in the academic setting, then we would communicate with the speech and language pathologist to make sure that we're tracking progress on those goals. So we do that back end, paperwork, all that good stuff. We do that as an education specialist. Additionally, the best part of what we do is working directly with the learners. And we are servicing learners, so we're providing direct services that are outlined in their IEP. They're outlined as specialized academic instruction, and it has minutes delineated to that and frequencies delineated to that. And what we do as the education specialist is we provide that direct service to our learners, and we focus that time that we have with them to work directly on their IEP goals. So like you said, in maybe a classroom-based setting, we might be pulling out learners to work on certain things or help support them in certain areas. And what we do in this setting is we're able to meet one-on-one or in small groups virtually,
okay,
over Zoom mostly. We're able to work directly with them specifically on their IEP goals. So it allows us to really target the instruction that they need to help seal those gaps up in their areas of continued growth that they have as learners.
And because it's an independent study model, that ability to work virtually means that there's no travel for the family, right? They don't have to, even, we're a public school, we have access to these services, but we've got to go get them. It doesn't matter where they live, they're able to access the services that their kids get right there from home. That's great. That's really convenient.
Yeah, for most of our learners, what we would call least restrictive environment. That's a fancy 3 words for
Sure.
just making sure that the learner is able to learn where they're at. For most of our kiddos, that is virtual. So yes, they're able to access their virtual services from the comfort of their study room in their house, right, or their desk that's in their room, or whatever the case may be for them, for their learning environment.
And so this really is important, right? Because I know there are a lot of families out there that, for one reason or another, are really attracted to an independent study program where they can work with their children from home, developing their curriculum and watching their kids grow as they work directly with them, that might say, oh, shoot, but I just... that doesn't work for me because my son, my daughter has this special education need, and so I need to enroll them in the local traditional district. That's not the case.
Right.
Even learners in an independent study program who are working from home can receive any of the special education services that they would appreciate at a local district school.
That's right. If the learner needs that service and it's written, then they get it.
Well, that is great. So can you specify a little bit? I know you mentioned like speech and language pathology and things like that, but what are some of the other special education services that are available to our school, or to our learners in the iLead Exploration program?
Yeah, so we have learners, they go through assessments to determine their needs, and so we have learners who have student support-related service needs that are occupational therapy or speech and language services. We also do have learners who receive deaf and hard of hearing services. We have learners who receive behavioral services and supports. We have learners who receive physical therapy services and supports, adaptive physical education. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing any, but because there are, so many, and each learner is so individual and their own person. And so we work really hard to meet them where they're at and meet their needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of almost an oversimplified answer, right? Because we're a public school, we're funded by tax dollars, there's no tuition involved, and any service, literally any service that your child requires, we can provide. So we can still provide you with that convenience and flexibility of that independent study, work from home education, while still providing the entire litany of special education services and that freedom to choose your own curriculum as families in independent study do.
Yeah, it really is awesome. It's something that I was very happy that I happened upon. All the right things happened at all the right times to present this opportunity to me. It's something that for my whole career, I've said, I wish there was something like this for our learners that provided them with an even more individualized approach to their academic journey. And iLead Exploration really does that. So it really is like the best of all the world.
Michaela, you hit the nail on the head when you told your husband that it does sound too good to be true, or maybe he told you that. But he's right, and that's been kind of the hallmark of what we do at iLead is provide individualized education, and the way our organization has morphed over the years is when we see kind of a critical mass of students who need something different, we work to provide that, because every kid should have access to an education that meets them right where they're at according to all of their educational needs. And that's what iLead Exploration does. It reaches out to that sector that wants to work from home and on an independent study model, but with all of the services that you and your team provide. Michaela Middleton, an educational specialist with iLead Exploration, joins me this morning. More about the personalized education that she and her colleagues are providing to over 3,000 learners at iLead Exploration. We'll have more on that when we get back. I am Matt Watson, and you're listening to SCVI and iLead School's Eye on the Valley on your hometown station. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is SCVI and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I am your host, Matt Watson. And I'm joined this morning by education specialist with iLead Exploration, Michaela Middleton. Michaela, before the break, we were talking about all the amazing benefits that iLead Exploration provides families who are interested in an independent study, work from home model, but still at that free public school price. And I say price with the quotes around it, right? Because it's a public school. It's paid for by your tax dollars. So we mentioned a lot of those benefits, but I can't help but think that there's somebody that just tuned in. So can you kind of go over again what makes iLead a great choice for families, specifically iLead Exploration? Why would a family consider this independent study model at iLead Exploration?
Super happy to be here, and more than happy to chat a little bit about kind of what makes our program a really great fit for learners and all learners. And we are an independent study model, so our learners are enrolled with us as an independent study, so they get the benefits of being enrolled with us as a public charter school. So they actually have access to learner funds, right? There's that stipend that's associated with their enrollment that they can access to pay for curriculums and classes and participating in those learning opportunities for them in their academic journey. But it allows them the flexibility to complete their academics from the setting of their own home. We have learners who participate with vendor classes, so they go on different campuses per se, or to attend different studios to do different classes. We have learners who participate in online curriculums. We have learners who do what you would think of maybe when you think of the word homeschool, even though we're not homeschool, we're an independent study program. Those paper pencil curriculums, we have learners who participate in those. And so it really does provide them the flexibility to shape their academic journey a bit more with the help and support of their general education teacher, with the help and support to track progress, attendance, all that good stuff that we have to do, but it also allows them the flexibility to have say in it. And then those learners who need extra support, who need special education services and support through our special education department, because we are a public school, they have the ability to access that with us as well. And so that's a huge win for a lot of our learners.
Yeah, and what I love is I've spoken with a lot of the families at iLead Exploration over the years, and I've seen families enroll in our schools that have said, you know what, I'm a pro, I've been doing this with my kids for years, I already know what curriculum I want, I know how I want to structure my day, I know, I want to take my kid to a field trip, so we go, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they just kind of say, I've got this, just, walk me through the requirements. And so we can be as hands-off as that family needs. And then I've also spoken with families who have said, I never thought of an independent study model until, like you said, until COVID hit, and my son or my daughter really flourished, really did well in that working from home model. And so I decided I'd give it a shot and see how it worked, but I need a lot more guidance. And then, our EFs is what we call them, our educational facilitators, lean in and can provide as much support or as little as you need, and everywhere in between. So it really is a great model. Let's talk about working for iLead, though, because you talked about how it is a great model for just about any learner. But let's talk about someone who might join iLead, hearing you and how happy you've been. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you like about working for iLead?
Absolutely. I would love to. So I like to say that kind of my love for working with iLead is multifold, right? If there are multiple components to it. One of them being that sometimes you hear people say, it's not just work. It's a work family. And I heard people say, we're so excited that you're joining the iLead family. And I thought, is it going to be one of those where we just say that and it's just go to work and it's all separate in separate little boxes? But it has been the most awesome experience because it really does feel like an iLead family. I feel seen. I feel heard. I feel like I have voice. The collaboration opportunities, the ability to connect with not only my fellow education specialists, but other EFs, other support staff, just the interaction and collaboration and communication as an employee, it really feels like a family and it feels knit. And though we are so big and we continue to grow, which is amazing, there's still that small town, for lack of a better word, feeling. And so I love that about iLead. I also love iLead's mission and vision and what we stand for. I said earlier that if I could have picked apart and lined up what I wanted learners, specifically who need special education support, what their academic journey could look like, iLead Exploration looked like that. Uh-huh. And so I was able to not sacrifice any of my ethics or my morals or values as an educator coming into this field. And then coming to iLead, I didn't have to sacrifice anything. I felt like I was able to truly meet my learners where they're at, and I could do for them and provide for them in their needs without sacrificing, my ethics or my values as an educator. And so I love that too. And then the people are awesome. The learners are awesome, working with them, working with our families, interacting on the day-to-day. Work shouldn't feel like work. Sure, we have things that we have to do that we don't necessarily want to, we wouldn't do in our free time, but it shouldn't feel like work all the time. And work doesn't feel like work all the time for me, so that's a win.
Oh, I love that. And again, you're spot on. That's one of the things that I love most about working at iLead is the answer to that question, right? You said, why can't schools meet every learner right where they are and give them exactly what each one of the individual learners needs? And that's the question that our school organization was founded on. Why can't we? And why can't we do what teachers know is right for kids? And so on that that challenge, that premise, that question, our school organization was founded and has grown. So if someone's listening to you and they're thinking, well, gosh, Michaela really loves iLead Exploration and they want to join, they want to be, whether it's an education specialist working to help get kids their special education needs met, or as a general education educator, we call them EFs, educational facilitators. If they were interested in joining the team and coming to work for iLead Exploration, how would they apply? And because it's independent study, do they need, for example, a teacher credential?
Absolutely. So I can speak really specifically to the education specialist role and the credential requirements and opportunities and all that good stuff. I can speak less specifically to our EFs. However, Either one, I will direct you to our iLead Exploration website, and from there is a link to submit a form with embedded resume and cover letter and all that good stuff. So if you are, thinking of joining our team, that would be where you would need to go to do that. With that being said, our education specialists are credentialed teachers, so we have our mild mod teaching credential for the state of California, or the mod severe credential. We have needs actually in both areas, and we have the ability to work with learners who would be considered mild to moderate and learners who would be considered mod severe. So if you have a California teaching credential for mild mod or mod severe, that would be what your credentialing requirements would be to be an education specialist. And then we do also prefer the autism certification. That is something that our learners, we service learners who have autism or autism spectrum disorders, and so that is a need as well in the credentialing area for our education specialists. In regards to educational facilitators, they are credentialed general education teachers for the state of California.
Yeah, and so it's the same requirements as any public school. All of our educators are fully credentialed and fully qualified. It's funny, I get oftentimes people who are like naysayers. They say, oh, you call your teachers facilitators or educational facilitators because they're not real teachers, huh, Matt? No. They're highly qualified, just like the state requires. We're a public school. We got to meet all the same requirements. And the work that we do is, you mentioned we have fun, and it does bring about such joy, but we work hard and are fully credentialed. You mentioned the website. If somebody's interested in joining the team, they can just go to ileadexploration.org and click on the Now Hiring button and get that process started. It's a great place to work, but it's also a great place for families to bring their kids and learn. And we've talked all about the benefits of iLead Exploration and the flexibility and customization of the independent study program at iLead Exploration. So if a family's listening and interested in enrolling, how can they learn more about this program?
Absolutely. So I will also direct them to our website, ileadexploration.org. And if they click up at the top on the enrollment button, it will take you to our enrollment wizard. And so that is an easy way for you to tap in to get enrolled for next school year.
There you go. So again, same website, ileadexploration.org, but instead of hitting Now Hiring, hit the enrollment button and just follow the instructions. It's really simple. So Michaela, you mentioned that you've got your autism certificate, and that's something that we are looking for facilitators or educators that do have that autism certificate. And that's something that, more and more kids every year are being diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Can you talk to me about working with kids with autism? What is it that you enjoy about working with kids with autism? Why is this something that you decided to follow?
Yeah, I sure can. One thing that I think is so neat that I wish I could see is I wish I could see our learners who do have autism spectrum disorders. I wish that I could see the way their brain works, because they have the most interesting take on or perception of their learning. And often, so many times, I am, might be working with a learner who has ASD, and I am learning more in their session than they are, in different ways than they are, right? They're participating in their learning academically, but I learn so much just from working with them and interacting with them, because there's no barrier to them being 100% themselves. And I love that, because sometimes it's hard, especially as we grow up and get older. Many of us want to be people pleasers. Well, I do. I'll just speak for myself. I am a people pleaser, and so for me, it's important. I want to make sure that people are happy, and I want everything to be all squared away and all set. But learners who have ASD, they don't even have that barrier, right? They're just 100% themselves. And so working with them on their academics is a joy, and they have such a great take on life and learning, and they bring so many strengths and strategies to the table that it's really neat. I do wish I could see their brains, because it would be the coolest study ever.
And, it blows my mind, Michaela, even in 2023, how often educators and even doctors will limit our expectations of children who are on the spectrum. And, I get it. They try to, help manage expectations for families. But oftentimes I still, in this day and age, hear of doctors and educators saying, oh, your child will never accomplish this, your child will never accomplish that. Things as basic as your child will never learn to read or never, become career ready. And what we're seeing, especially with the independent individualized learning model that we have at all of our schools, we're seeing kids far exceed some of the expectations that these quote-unquote professionals are putting on them. Can you talk a little bit about some of the amazing things that you've been able to accomplish or see your kids do?
Absolutely. So you're right. And I had to flip my script early on in my teaching career so that I could help flip my script for my learners. And I saw that there were just limitations coming top down. I mean, they happen in the medical field. It happens in schools too. That was where, for me, I had people over top of me saying, well, that learner's not going to get, to X, Y, Z, like you said. And so I had to decide in my head and with my journey as an educator that I was not going to see that as a limitation for them, so I could teach them to not see it as a limitation for themselves. I decided that if we're setting a bar, that could be a positive bar or a negative bar. It's in our innate selves that we want to meet that, and a lot of us want to exceed that. So if we're viewing something as a barrier, then we're not going to exceed it, right? Because it's subconsciously going to prevent us from going any farther. If I'm making limitless expectations and I'm setting a goal, then naturally we want to see it as a goal. We want to meet it. We want to exceed it. And so helping learners see that, sure, I might do this differently. Sure, it might take me such and such or 5 times longer. But by the time I get there to that point, whatever that goal is, I'm going to have all of this experience, all of this knowledge to take into the next time. One of my learners who I started working with when I first came to iLead Exploration, he is graduating this year, and I am so excited. Right. I'm so proud of him. He has a huge interest in graphic design and T-shirt design, so he entered some contests. And he won T-shirt designing contests, and he shared them with me. And now I'm not his teacher this year anymore, but he still sends me emails and updates me, and that has been one of the biggest rewards, is just watching him flourish and be so happy, knowing just in these last 3 years how far he's come in his confidence even, and not to mention his academics too. I mean, he's graduating, and he's fantastic. So that's been one of the biggest rewards.
That is beautiful. You know what helped me you talked about reframing your mindset. What helped me reframe my mindset was actually one of my fifth graders a few years ago. I had a learner. Now, this is a classroom-based model, not an independent study, but still very similar as even our independent study kids interact with each other on a regular basis. But one of the learners in my class actually had multiple diagnoses, and he was working out some issues in a way that was a little bit demonstrative in the classroom. One of my newer learners kind of looked, and he had a typical reaction for a fourth or fifth grader. He kind of wrinkled his nose and said, "What's wrong with Christopher?" And that question kind of took me back because I got protective, I got defensive, and I'm trying to frame my mind as to how do I answer that. And right away, one of the other kids stepped up and said, "That's Christopher. He's doing what he needs to do, just like you're doing what you need to do." and that just quickly reframed my mind of, yeah, he's got his own assets and struggles, just like I have my own assets and struggles. And all of our kids learn to see themselves and each other that way, and that just really takes any limitations off their growth. So,
yeah, because we're our own person.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Michaela, we've talked a lot about iLead exploration and this amazing independent study model that we offer. Now, we run the show, and our network is based here in Santa Clarita. I know your school is authorized just up the road here in out of Acton Agua Dulce School District. So, do families have to live in the Santa Clarita area in order to enroll? What are your school's boundaries?
Yeah, so our families can enroll if they live anywhere in the 5 counties that we service. So
Okay.
We're not bound by districting lines. If you have to go to this middle school if you live in this part of this county. We're not bound by those boundaries or limitations, so you can actually live within any of the 5 counties that we service.
So we're talking about, because we're authorized in LA County, that's part of the charter school law, that you can service learners from anywhere within your county or adjacent counties. So we have families from Ventura County, Kern County, San Bernardino County, Orange County, or Los Angeles County, and because it's an independent study model, transportation's not an issue. So we have families that literally do come from all of those counties enrolling in iLead exploration and receiving not only the phenomenal individualized educational program that they get with all of our schools, but especially iLead exploration, but they have access to all of the special education needs that they might have, and you and your team work to build and grow them into successful adults. Michaela, I want to thank you for all that you do for our learners and our families at iLead Exploration. I want to wish you a wonderful weekend and a very happy Mother's Day.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy.
It's been great having you, Michaela. All right, y'all stick around. It is time for Big T's 5 Minutes of Fame. This is SCVI and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I am Matt Watson, and this is your hometown station, KHTS. We haven't even started the segment, and Big T's already got me in stitches. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is SCVI and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I am your host, Matt Watson, and I am rejoined now by the Honorable Mayor Jason Gibbs. Mayor Gibbs, thank you so much for coming back.
Hey, no problem, Matt. I thought for sure you were going to call me Mayor Pickles.
Okay, if you're just tuning in, last hour we had Mayor Gibbs on for a couple of segments, and he mentioned how some of the students at his kid's school have dubbed him Mayor Pick. Now, is it plural or singular? Mayor Pickle or Mayor Pickles?
It's plural.
Plural. Oh, all right. All right, fantastic. All right, so Mayor Pickles is joining us, and we do appreciate you coming back to play with Big T. But let me step aside for a second and make some room for him. It is Big T's 5 Minutes of Fame. Y'all know Big T. Big T is a longtime resident and leader in the Santa Clarita Valley. He is an executive and philanthropist. He's an amazing father, husband, community leader, and he's looking forward to Mother's Day this weekend because Big T is one bad mother. I'm just talking about Big T. Here he is, everybody, his mom's favorite. Big T, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Maddie. I also want to welcome Mom to the show, and I want to say Happy Mother's Day to her and happy birthday to her. Same day on May 14th this year.
Absolutely. Can I get a double up? Mother's Day and birthday. All right.
Oh.
So, Mayor Gibbs, you've joined us before for trivia with Big T, and as you mentioned off the air, you know how I cheat now. So
That's right.
This time you've got a little bit more of a leg up. I want to remind you of the rules. Big T's going to throw out a question, and you hit your buzzer. You got the buzzer that we sent to you, right? It's actually your name. Just call out your name, and then Big T will recognize you, and then you can throw the answer. Those of you playing along at home, you've got a significant advantage. You can just skip the buzzer part and shout out the answer. You keep score and see if you can beat the mayor. I'm going to keep score right here and see if I can beat him. All right, brother man, let's do this.
We're going to go ahead and get started.
All right.
The shooting of whom in 1914 started World War I?
Mayor Frogger.
Frogger.
I almost shouted out mayor and gave him the answer. No, it was the Archduke Ferdinand.
That is correct.
Woohoo!
What's the smallest planet in our solar system?
Frogger.
Frogger.
Mercury.
Mercury's correct. 2 for 2. Somebody needs to turn on the mayor's microphone.
More planets now? What's going on here?
It's pronounced Mercury, like Merca.
We got one for you, Mr. Mayor. What's the highest grossing Broadway show of all time?
Oh, that's for me? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Now a Disney movie.
Oh. Frogger.
It's The Circle of Life. Frogger.
Oh. I was going to go My Fair Lady, but now with the hint.
That is incorrect. Mr. Mayor, what's your answer?
Lion King?
Lion King is correct. The mayor's on the board. This show moves quick, Frogger. You got to keep up.
Yeah.
What was the name of the possessed hotel in Stephen King's novel and movie, The Shining?
Frogger.
Ooh.
Frogger.
The Days Inn.
Incorrect.
Yeah, I don't
Jason, anything?
No.
The Overlook Hotel.
Engineer Carlos was buzzing in on that one.
What was Notorious B.I.G.'s real name?
Frogger.
Frogger.
Biggie Smalls.
That is incorrect. That was not his birth name.
Oh.
Mr. Mayor, you got anything?
No, I'm still reeling over Matt's Shaft reference when he introduced me.
Mr. Mayor, we're still on the air.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
Let me grab...
Chris Wallace? Christopher Wallace?
Christopher Wallace is correct. Nice pull, man.
Wow. Mayor Jason Gibbs, the fastest Googler in the West.
Come on now.
It's the fastest Googler in the West.
Yeah, that was real quick, wasn't it? Not bad from a cell phone, too.
Star Child, Demon, Spaceman or Space Ace, and Catman are the on-stage personas for what band?
Frogger.
Frogger.
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
That is incorrect. Do I need to throw out a hint for the mayor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Their faces are painted.
Kiss.
Oh.
Kiss is correct.
Nice.
Which is the only American football team to go a whole season undefeated, including the Super Bowl?
Frogger.
Frogger.
Frogger. That would be the 1973 Miami Dolphins.
I'm going to give you the Miami Dolphins. It was in 72, but we're going to give it to you because I just asked for the team, not the year.
Well, 73 was the year that they won the Super Bowl. So it straddles the new year. Laces out.
Which basketball team completed 2 three-peats?
Gibbs. Chicago Bulls.
Chicago Bulls is correct.
There we go.
Which former NBA player was nicknamed Agent Zero?
Frogger.
Frogger.
That was actually my first girlfriend's nickname for me, but I'm going Allen Iverson.
Incorrect. I don't think it'll help, but he went to Arizona.
Gilbert Arenas.
Gilbert Arenas is correct.
Nice.
Fastest Googler in the West.
No,
he knows his college basketball.
My goodness, I do tick off the politicians when they come on, don't I, Matt?
Yes, you do.
I love it, Big T.
What sport is dubbed the king of sports?
Frogger. Chess.
All right, incorrect.
Soccer?
Soccer's correct.
Man.
Oh!
What is the name of the professional ice hockey team based in Toronto, Canada?
Frogger.
Gibbs.
Frogger.
That's the Maple Leafs.
Maple Leafs is correct.
So is it the Maple Leafs or the Maple Leaves?
Leafs.
Okay.
It's Leafs, so you're wrong.
Who was the first gymnast to score a perfect 10?
Frogger.
Oh,
Frogger.
Nadia Comaneci.
Nadia Comaneci.
wow.
And at a restaurant, you'll see deer meat on the menu under what name?
Frogger.
Gibbs.
Frogger.
Venison.
Venison is correct.
There's a delay on my cell phone.
Uh-huh.
What ship rescued Titanic passengers hours after the ship went down?
Frogger.
Frogger.
Was that the Carpathia?
Carpathia is correct.
All right.
Wow, I'm just impressed right now.
Hold on, Rose.
What is the human body's largest organ?
Gibbs.
Gibbs.
Oh, organ. The skin?
Skin is correct.
Nice.
Pull. How many feet are in a yard?
Frogger.
Gibbs.
Frogger.
3.
3 is correct. How many bones do sharks have?
Frogger.
Frogger.
Trick question. 0.
0 is correct.
They're all cartilage.
They're all cartilage.
These are great.
What country was the Marxist revolutionary figure Che Guevara born in?
Oh. Frogger.
Frogger.
Is it Venezuela?
Incorrect.
I got nothing.
Argentina is the correct answer.
Okay, I knew it was over on that side.
All right. What's the capital of Singapore?
Frogger.
Frogger.
Is it Manila?
Incorrect.
Oh, my friends and sister
it's the letter
cities. The letter S. Oh, Singapore. I was thinking Philippines.
It's actually Singapore. Singapore is an island, city, and a state.
The
Wow.
letter S.
What was Eleanor Roosevelt's maiden name before she married FDR?
Frogger.
Anybody? Frogger.
Roosevelt. They were first cousins.
They were fifth cousins. It is Roosevelt.
Yeah!
Wow.
Mayor Gibbs, did
In
you know that
Greek
California
mythology-
is a yeehaw state?
It is a yeehaw state.
You're allowed to marry
In
your first
Greek
cousin
myth-
here in California.
Go ahead.
We just got time for 2 more quick questions, Big T.
Perfect. In Greek mythology, who was known as the messenger of the gods?
Frogger. Was it Mercury?
Incorrect.
Oh.
Gibbs, you got anything?
I got nothing.
It's Hermes. Last quick question. The Statue of Liberty was a gift to the U.S. from what country? Was that Gibbs?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was France.
France is correct.
All righty. I mean, Mr. Mayor, you did well. You gave me a run for my money, but I was able to cheat my way to another win today. We do have to wrap it up. Thanks for swinging by, Big T. We'd also like to thank our guest, Mayor Jason Gibbs. We appreciate you very much. Michaela Middleton, educational
pleasure, boys.
specialist with iLead Exploration, and Jordan Thomas with Mr. Jordan Swims. Producer Sarah, engineer Carlos, Big T, and thank you for listening. Remember, life is hard, but we're all here to help each other along. Be well and do good, and join us again next week and every Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. I am Matt Watson, and this is SCVI, and I lead Schools Eye in the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS.